for Justice's Liberty and National Security Program, plus former FBI Special Agent Jonathan Gilliam joining us. So, Michael, as we're hearing this, trying to digest this information, and again, it has not been verified, nor can it be confirmed as yet as to whether this manifesto was indeed written by Dylann Roof. But when you hear those words about almost like some clarification being offered at the very top, not being raised by a racist family, but then out of frustration and searching the internet, this may have provoked this kind of action. What do you examine here when you hear these words?
Well, I mean, they're interesting. Obviously, another piece of evidence for investigators to explore if indeed it is proven to be written by Mr. Roof. But it sort of shows an exploration of different ideologies, and I found it interesting that there was a weighing of particular ideologies, not fully accepting any particular thing, but actually putting his own take on it. So it certainly shows some interest in the topics and personal animosity that is being sort of supported by these ideologies, rather than necessarily that he learned his racial hatred from the internet.
Mm-hmm. And this really does make it very difficult, doesn't it, both Michael and Jonathan, because everyone wants to have a better understanding of things. Not an excuse for, because this is a heinous act. It's horrific. Hurt an awful lot of people. But then when you hear of this manifesto possibly written by this gunman, there is some curiosity into where this sentiment comes from. So, Jonathan, when information like this rises to the top or becomes investigated, what is it that investigators are looking for to see if indeed this is a legitimate, manifesto, meaning legitimate, written by this gunman? What may have provoked, who may have provoked, what is being examined?
Well, as Michael could tell you, probably one of the first things that the Bureau did in this environment when they came into this after this incident happened was they instantly started doing database scrubs. They started querying sources, and they started looking in to see if this individual, Mr. Roof, had any connections to white supremacy groups. And it's clear, it's starting to become clear that they didn't find those connections except through the ideology. Now, I stand by my comments that I do believe that this individual has some psychopathic tendencies. But I will tell you, I do feel as though we need to start looking at this the same way we would look at ISIS. If somebody is inspired by ISIS and they become an operative for ISIS just through the amount of information that's on the internet, we would deem them a terrorist. And I do believe in this case, although it's not going to help in the end for the prosecution, it can help for long-term investigations if we look at this individual, how he was basically radicalized, where did he get his information, and follow that terroristic trail the same way we would with fundamental Islam.
So we're also seeing some disturbing new pictures of Dylann Roof from this website, showing him burning an American flag, standing on an American flag. Michael, we're seeing this together right now for the very first time. What do these images say to you, and in concert with this alleged manifesto and what we understand police to have said, what he said when he was apprehended?
So if you look at white supremacist and anti-government militia rhetoric, they often talk about the Constitution and consider themselves patriots, but when you look at what they actually do, they're very against a Constitution you and I would recognize. They look at the Constitution as it was originally written, which authorized slavery. So when they talk about it, it's not in the manner that we would. So what I saw when I was undercover within these groups, it was that there was a lot of anti-American symbolism, like burning flags and other sorts of desecration of what most Americans would view as important symbols for our country.
And Jonathan, we're talking about 3 days now since that massacre. And of course, lots of questions are still being asked. Some questions are being answered. But what do you think about the timing now that pictures would be made available now, that this website and this manifesto, possibly written by him or at least by someone, would come to everyone's attention now.